What if I told you that right at this very moment, while you're sitting there with that familiar knot in your stomach, with your mind racing through tomorrow's problems and yesterday's mistakes, the creator of the entire universe has a message specifically crafted for you. Not for your neighbor, not for some stranger across the world, but for you with your exact struggles, your specific fears, and that particular anxiety that's been eating you alive. What if he's been trying to get your attention, trying to whisper something into your restless heart that could completely transform how you handle every stressful moment from this day forward? You see, that stress you're carrying isn't invisible to him. That weight on your shoulders that feels like it's getting heavier each day, those 3 a.m. thoughts that spiral into worst-case scenarios, that constant feeling like you're drowning in responsibilities and expectations, he sees all of it. And he's not standing at a distance, shaking his head in disappointment. Instead, he's been reaching out, trying to tell you something that could change everything about how you walk through this chaotic, overwhelming world we live in. Maybe you've tried everything else. Maybe you've read the self-help books, downloaded the meditation apps, tried to think positive thoughts, or even attempted to just push through and be stronger. But what if the answer you've been searching for wasn't in any technique, any strategy, or any amount of willpower? What if it was in understanding that the God who created galaxies and painted sunsets, who knows the number of hairs on your head and every beat of your heart, actually has something profound to say about your stress? This isn't about religion or rules or guilt. This is about discovering that there's a voice speaking into your anxiety, offering you something the world can't give: genuine peace in the middle of your storm. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on your circumstances changing, but changes how you face every circumstance. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because what you're about to hear might just be the key that unlocks the freedom you've been desperately searching for. Your soul is about to encounter something that could set you free from the stress that's been holding you captive. Right now, at this very moment, millions of people across the world are staring at their bedroom ceilings at 3 a.m., their minds spinning like a washing machine that won't stop. They're calculating and recalculating numbers that never seem to add up right, replaying conversations they wish they could take back, imagining scenarios that might never happen but feel terrifyingly real in the darkness. The bills are piling up on the kitchen counter, that relationship that used to bring joy now feels like walking on eggshells, and the doctor's appointment results are still pending, creating a knot of fear that sits heavy in their chest. It's like being caught in a storm that never ends, where the wind just keeps howling and the rain keeps falling, and you can't remember what sunshine feels like anymore. But here's something that might shock you, something that changes everything when you really understand it. God has been speaking about stress and anxiety since the beginning of time, long before we had psychiatrists and therapists, long before we coined terms like mental health and panic attacks. He wasn't surprised when anxiety became a household word, when stress became an epidemic, when people started needing medication just to sleep through the night. He saw it coming because he knows the human heart better than we know ourselves. He understood that when we started carrying burdens we were never designed to bear, when we started trying to control outcomes that were never meant to be in our hands, we would buckle under the weight. The ancient scriptures are filled with his words about worry, about fear, about the overwhelming nature of life's pressures. But they're not just observations, they're invitations. Invitations to discover that the creator of the universe has been whispering solutions into our stress-filled world all along. He's been offering a different way to walk through the chaos, a way that doesn't require us to have all the answers or control all the variables. The question isn't whether God cares about your sleepless nights and racing thoughts. The question is whether you're ready to listen to what he's been trying to tell you about finding peace in the middle of your personal storm. Let's be brutally honest here, because sugarcoating this won't help anyone. We are living in the most paradoxical time in human history. We are more connected than any generation that has ever walked this planet, yet we are drowning in anxiety like never before. Think about it. Our great-grandparents didn't have smartphones buzzing with notifications every 30 seconds. They didn't have 24-hour news cycles feeding them disasters from around the globe. And they certainly didn't have access to the collective worries and opinions of 7 billion people at their fingertips. Yet somehow, with all our technology, all our conveniences, all our supposed progress, we are more stressed, more anxious, and more overwhelmed than they ever were. We wake up and immediately grab our phones, and within minutes we're bombarded with information that our brains were never designed to process. We see perfectly curated Instagram posts of someone's vacation while we're struggling to pay rent. We watch LinkedIn updates of people getting promotions while we're questioning our career choices. We scroll through Facebook and see families that look picture perfect while our own relationships feel like they're falling apart. It's like we're constantly comparing our messy, unfiltered, behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's highlight reel, and we wonder why we feel like we're failing at life. The pressure is suffocating and relentless. There are deadlines at work that seem impossible to meet, bills that keep coming whether we're ready or not, kids who need attention we don't always have the energy to give, parents who are aging and need care, and somehow we're supposed to keep it all together while also maintaining our physical health, our mental well-being, and our spiritual life. That knot in your stomach when you think about everything on your to-do list? That's not weakness, that's the human response to carrying more than we were ever designed to bear. And here's the kicker: we live in a culture that tells us we should be able to handle it all. That if we just manage our time better, think more positively, or work harder, we can somehow master this chaos. But what if the problem isn't that we're not strong enough or organized enough? What if the problem is that we're trying to be God in our own lives, attempting to control and manage things that were never meant to be under our control in the first place? But here's where this whole conversation takes a fascinating turn, and it's going to challenge everything you think you know about dealing with anxiety. When Jesus walked this earth 2,000 years ago, he wasn't living in some stress-free bubble, disconnected from human reality. He was surrounded by people who were drowning in worry just like we are today. There were parents terrified about feeding their families, people sick with diseases they couldn't cure, individuals facing financial ruin, and entire communities living under the oppression of political uncertainty. Sound familiar? The details may have changed, but human anxiety is timeless. And here's what's absolutely revolutionary about Jesus' response to all this worry: he didn't dismiss it. He didn't roll his eyes and tell people to just think happy thoughts or get their act together. He didn't minimize their pain or offer shallow platitudes about everything happening for a reason. Instead, he acknowledged their struggles and then said something that cuts right to the heart of why we stress. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Do you hear what he's really saying there? He's not denying that trouble exists. In fact, he's confirming it. He's saying, yes, difficulties are coming. Yes, challenges are real. Yes, each day brings its own set of problems. But then he offers something revolutionary, a completely different way to approach these inevitable troubles. He's essentially saying, stop borrowing tomorrow's problems and adding them to today's load. Think about how profound that is. Most of our stress isn't actually about what's happening right now in this moment, it's about what might happen next week, next month, or next year. We're carrying the weight of imaginary futures, worst-case scenarios that may never materialize, and problems that don't even exist yet. Jesus understood something about human nature that we're still learning today, that when we try to live in tomorrow while standing in today, we become paralyzed by possibilities we can't control. He was offering a radical shift in perspective, not denial of life's difficulties, but a refocusing of our energy and attention. Instead of scattering our mental and emotional resources across every potential problem, he was inviting us to concentrate on what's actually in front of us right now, trusting that the same God who provides for today will be there for tomorrow too. Now let's dig deeper and get to the absolute core of why we're so stressed, because until we understand the root, we'll keep treating symptoms instead of the actual disease. Most of our stress, if we're brutally honest with ourselves, comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of our role in this universe. We've somehow convinced ourselves that we're supposed to be the puppet masters of our own lives, pulling all the strings, controlling all the outcomes, managing all the variables. We stress about what our neighbors think of our lawn, what our coworkers whisper about our presentation, what our extended family says about our life choices. We lose sleep over whether our kids will make the right decisions, whether our spouse will always love us, whether our boss will appreciate our efforts. We worry about outcomes we can't guarantee. Will the investment pay off? Will the relationship work out? Will the medical tests come back clear? Will our children be successful and happy? We torment ourselves about a future we can't predict. What if the economy crashes? What if we get sick? What if we lose our job? What if our worst fears come true? It's exhausting because we're essentially trying to play God in our own lives, attempting to orchestrate and control every single detail of our existence. Here's a picture that might help you understand how futile this is. Imagine trying to hold water in your bare hands. The harder you squeeze, the faster it runs through your fingers. The tighter you grip, the more you lose. That's exactly what happens when we try to control things that were never meant to be under our control. The irony is devastating. The more we stress about controlling outcomes, the more out of control we actually become. The more we worry about what others think, the less authentic we become. The more we try to guarantee our future, the less we're able to enjoy our present. And here's what I believe God is gently saying to every stressed out, overwhelmed, anxiety-ridden person. Child, you're carrying burdens I never asked you to carry. He's watching us struggle under the weight of responsibilities that were never ours to begin with. He's seeing us exhaust ourselves trying to manage things that He never intended for us to manage. It's like watching someone try to carry a refrigerator on their back when there's a perfectly good dolly right next to them. The struggle isn't necessary, but we've convinced ourselves it's our job to bear it all. Here's what absolutely blows my mind and should change everything about how we view our anxiety. God doesn't just stand at a distance, observing our stress like some detached cosmic therapist taking notes. He doesn't just acknowledge that we're struggling and then leave us to figure it out on our own. No, He steps directly into our chaos with solutions, with promises, with actual help that's more real and more powerful than anything we could manufacture on our own. When He says, "Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you," this isn't some feel-good religious platitude or empty spiritual jargon. This is a divine invitation from the Creator of everything that exists. Think about the magnitude of what this means. The God who spoke galaxies into existence with just His voice, who scattered billions of stars across the universe and knows each one by name, who holds planets in their orbits, and controls the tides of every ocean. The same God is telling you that He cares about your specific worries. Not humanity's worries in general, not some abstract concept of human suffering, but your worries. That knot in your stomach about whether you can make this month's rent payment, He cares about that. That sleepless night you had because your teenager isn't answering their phone, He cares about that. That anxiety attack you had in the grocery store checkout line because everything felt overwhelming, He cares about that too. Your job stress, where you feel like you're drowning in deadlines and office politics and wondering if you're good enough, He's not too busy running the universe to care about your Monday morning anxiety. Your relationship problems, whether it's a marriage that feels like it's falling apart or friendships that have become complicated and painful, He's not too occupied with cosmic affairs to notice your broken heart. Your financial concerns, those bills that keep you awake calculating and recalculating numbers that never seem to work, He's not too important to be bothered by your earthly needs. This is the God who knows how many hairs are on your head, who sees every tear you cry, who hears every worried thought before you even think it completely. He's inviting you to literally transfer the weight of your anxiety from your shoulders to His. Not because He has to, not because it's His obligation, but because He genuinely, deeply, personally cares about you. He's saying, "Give me that burden you're carrying. Hand over that worry that's eating you alive. I'm big enough to handle it, and you were never meant to carry it alone." Now here's where things get really interesting, because there's this phrase in the Bible that has puzzled and comforted people for thousands of years. The peace of God, which passes all understanding. And I want you to really think about what that means, because it's not talking about some mystical, otherworldly experience that only super spiritual people can access. It's describing something that defies human logic, something that shouldn't make sense but somehow does when you experience it firsthand. This peace that passes understanding means having a deep, settled calm in your heart even when your circumstances are absolutely chaotic. It's not about pretending everything is fine when it's not. That's denial, and denial is just another form of trying to control reality. This is something completely different. It's about having an unexplainable sense of security and tranquility even when the storm is raging all around you. It's the kind of peace that makes other people look at you and wonder how you're not falling apart, how you're able to sleep at night when they know what you're going through. Think about the difference between being in a storm and being anchored during a storm. When you're just in the storm, you're being tossed around by every wave, battered by every gust of wind, completely at the mercy of forces beyond your control. You're reactive, panicked, desperately trying to stay afloat while everything around you is chaos. But when you're anchored during a storm, you're still experiencing the weather. You can still feel the wind, you can still see the lightning, you can still hear the thunder, but you're not being swept away by it. You're held steady by something deeper, something stronger than the temporary turbulence on the surface. That's what God's peace offers, not the absence of difficult circumstances, but the presence of divine stability in the middle of them. It's not that your problems disappear or that life suddenly becomes easy. It's that you develop this deep, unshakable knowing that you're not walking through this alone. There's someone bigger than your circumstances, more powerful than your problems, more reliable than your feelings, and he's got you anchored to something that can't be moved by the temporary storms of life. This peace doesn't make sense to your logical mind because your mind is trying to figure out how to fix everything, but your spirit recognizes truth when it encounters it. So now comes the question that everyone's thinking. This all sounds beautiful and comforting, but how do we actually live this out in real life? How do we move from understanding these concepts in our heads to experiencing this peace in our hearts when the rent is due, when the relationship is falling apart, when the doctor calls with test results? Because let's be honest, it's one thing to talk about trusting God when you're sitting comfortably, and it's another thing entirely when you're in the middle of a crisis at 2 a.m. wondering how you're going to make it through. Here's the first step, and it's probably the hardest one. We have to stop trying to be God in our own lives. We have to come to that place of honest surrender where we admit that we don't have all the answers. We can't control every outcome. We can't guarantee every result. And you know what? That's actually okay. That's not failure, that's freedom. It's the recognition that we were never supposed to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We were never designed to be the master controllers of our universe. When we finally admit our limitations, we open up space for God's unlimited power to work. The second practical step is changing how we start each day. Instead of waking up and immediately picking up our worries like a heavy backpack we strap to our shoulders, we practice the art of surrendering them before we even get out of bed. It's like this. Imagine if every morning you had a choice between picking up a 100-pound weight or setting it down and walking free. Most of us unconsciously choose the weight because we think carrying our worries somehow helps us manage them. But what if we started each day by literally saying, God, here are all the things I'm tempted to worry about today. I'm giving them to you because you're better at handling them than I am. And third, we have to remind ourselves constantly of who we're trusting. This is the same God who provided manna from heaven when an entire nation was starving in the wilderness. The same God who made a way through the Red Sea when there was no possible escape route. The same God who turned water into wine at a wedding, who multiplied fish and bread to feed thousands, who raised the dead back to life. He's still in the miracle business, still making ways where there seems to be no way, still providing solutions that human minds couldn't dream up. Now I need you to step back with me for a moment and see the bigger picture, because when we're in the middle of our stress and anxiety, we lose perspective. We start thinking that our current situation is permanent, that this struggle we're facing right now is going to define the rest of our lives. But here's what God wants you to understand deep in your soul. Your current struggle is not your final destination. The chapter you're living right now is not the end of your story. That financial pressure that's keeping you awake at night, that constant worry about how you're going to make ends meet, that stress about providing for your family, it's temporary. I'm not minimizing how real it feels or how difficult it is right now, but God sees beyond this moment. He sees the one provision that's coming, the opportunities that are being prepared, the ways He's going to make for you that you can't even imagine yet. Your current financial situation is not your permanent address. That relationship that's causing you so much stress, whether it's a marriage that feels like it's hanging by a thread, a friendship that's become toxic, or family dynamics that drain your energy every time you think about them, there's hope. God specializes in healing what seems irreparable, and restoring what appears to be lost forever. He can soften the hardest hearts, bridge the widest gaps, and bring reconciliation where there seems to be only division. Even if the relationship doesn't heal in the way you hope, God can heal your heart and give you peace about it. That health concern that's stealing your sleep and filling your mind with worst-case scenarios, that diagnosis that has you researching symptoms at 2 a.m., that physical limitation that's making you feel like your body is betraying you, God is bigger than your medical report. He's the same God who healed the blind, made the lame walk, and raised people from their deathbeds. I'm not saying He always heals in the way we want Him to, but I am saying that He's more powerful than any diagnosis, any prognosis, any medical limitation. Here's the truth that changes everything. God is not saying your problems aren't real. He's not minimizing your pain or dismissing your struggles. He's saying that He is more real than your problems. He existed before your current crisis began, and He'll be there long after it's resolved. Your temporary troubles are not stronger than His eternal power. Right now, in this very moment, I want you to do something that might feel scary but could change everything. I want you to imagine taking that stress that's been your constant companion, that worry that follows you from room to room, that anxiety that wakes up with you every morning and goes to bed with you every night, and I want you to imagine literally handing it over. Not to another self-help technique that promises to fix you in 10 easy steps, not to positive thinking that tells you to just change your mindset, not to meditation apps or breathing exercises or any other human solution, but to the one who actually holds tomorrow in His hands. Picture it in your mind. Take that financial stress that's been eating at you, that relationship anxiety that's been consuming your thoughts, that health concern that's been stealing your peace, that worry about your children's future, that fear about your own purpose and direction. Gather it all up like you're collecting pieces of broken glass that have been scattered across the floor of your heart. Now imagine placing every single piece into the hands of someone who is strong enough to hold it without being cut, wise enough to know what to do with it, and loving enough to care about how much it's been hurting you. God has been waiting for this moment. He's been watching you struggle, seeing you try to manage everything on your own, witnessing you exhaust yourself trying to figure out solutions to problems that are beyond your ability to solve. He's been patient while you've attempted every other option, while you've searched for answers in every other place, while you've tried to be strong enough and smart enough and capable enough to handle life all by yourself. And now He's gently saying, "Child, you don't have to carry this anymore. You were never meant to figure it all out on your own." This isn't about giving up or being weak or admitting defeat. This is about recognizing that there's someone infinitely more capable than you are, someone who sees the entire picture while you can only see one small piece, someone who knows the end from the beginning, and has already made provisions for your needs before you even recognize you had them. He's been waiting for you to stop trying to be your own savior, and let Him be the savior He's always been. The relief you'll feel when you finally let go isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. It's the recognition that you've been carrying weights you were never designed to bear. So here's where the rubber meets the road, where all of this stops being just beautiful words and starts becoming life-changing reality. I'm going to give you a challenge that's simple enough for anyone to do but powerful enough to transform how you experience stress. For the next 24 hours, just one day, I want you to try something different. Every single time you feel that familiar wave of anxiety start to rise in your chest, every time your mind begins to spiral into worst-case scenarios, every time that old pattern of worry tries to take control of your thoughts, instead of going down that same exhausting mental rabbit hole, I want you to pause and whisper 5 simple words. God, I trust you with this. Not, God, please fix this. Or, God, make this go away. Or, God, let me understand this. But, God, I trust you with this. Those 5 words are a complete surrender, a recognition that whatever you're facing in that moment is too big for you to handle alone, but not too big for Him to handle perfectly. When your phone rings and you see it's a number you don't recognize and your mind immediately jumps to bad news, whisper those words. When you're lying in bed at 2 a.m. and your brain starts playing the highlight reel of everything that could go wrong tomorrow, whisper those words. When you check your bank account and the numbers don't look the way you hoped they would, whisper those words. Watch what happens not just to your stress levels, though I believe you'll be amazed at how much calmer you feel, but watch how it changes your entire perspective. You'll start to notice that when you consistently choose trust over worry, when you repeatedly hand your anxieties over to God instead of wrestling with them in your own strength, something shifts in your spirit. You'll begin to see situations differently, respond to challenges with more peace, and sleep better at night knowing that someone bigger than your problems is taking care of things. Because here's what I want you to understand: when God says, "Don't stress," He's not barking a command at you like some harsh taskmaster who doesn't understand human nature. He's not demanding that you somehow manufacture peace out of thin air or pretend that difficult things aren't difficult. He's offering you freedom from the exhausting burden of trying to control everything, freedom from the prison of constant worry, freedom from carrying weights that were never yours to carry in the first place. If this message has resonated with your soul today, if something deep inside you is stirring and saying, "Yes, this is what I've been searching for," then you need to know that you're exactly where you need to be in this moment. It's not a coincidence that you're hearing these words right now. It's not random that out of all the content you could have chosen to consume today, you ended up here, listening to a message about God's heart for your anxiety and stress. Sometimes God uses the most unexpected moments, the most ordinary circumstances, to remind us of the most extraordinary truth that we are not alone in this fight. You might have clicked on this video while procrastinating at work, or maybe you were scrolling through content at 2 a.m. because you couldn't sleep, or perhaps someone shared this with you at exactly the moment when you needed to hear it most. However you got here, whatever brought you to this message, there's something bigger at work than mere chance. There's a God who knows exactly what you've been carrying, exactly how heavy the burden has become, exactly how tired you are of trying to hold it all together, and He orchestrated this moment to whisper to your weary heart, "I see you, I know you, and I want to help you." Your peace isn't something you have to earn through perfect faith or flawless trust. Your peace isn't something you have to wait for until your circumstances change or your problems disappear. Your peace is waiting for you right now, in this moment, regardless of what's happening in your life, regardless of how messy things are, regardless of how far you think you are from having it all figured out. It's been there all along, offered freely by a God who loves you more than you can comprehend, extended to you not because you deserve it but because He delights in giving good gifts to His children. The only thing standing between you and that peace is the choice to receive it, to accept it, to stop trying to earn it or manufacture it or figure out how to deserve it, and simply receive it as the gift it's always been. Your peace is waiting, your freedom from stress is available, your relief from anxiety is offered. You just have to choose to receive it, and that choice can happen right here, right now, in this very moment.